Thank you for joining my masterclass. Now, today we're talking about 5 books that teach you the secrets of being a millionaire. 5 books that teach you the secrets of being a millionaire. Now, if you don't know the secrets of being a millionaire, what you can do throughout your life, you can work hard and you work so hard that you destroy your body, because at the end of the day, hard work is a necessary component of becoming a millionaire, but it's not the main component, it's not the main ingredient. So smart work is actually the main ingredient of being a millionaire, of being successful. But the thing is, if you don't know those secrets, if you don't know those little things, you have to understand there are just little things that make a big difference between those who are at the very bottom and then those who are at the top, the 1% that control 90% of the wealth of the world. And what are those little things? You know, why do you want to invent the wheel? Why do you want to reinvent the wheel? There are people, in their lives, they've successfully become millionaires and they've written books about it. And so you can learn from them because you're not going to be a threat to them. They've already carved out a niche, and that niche is, unchallengeable. They dominate that space, and so they want to help you. So why won't you read these books? Now the thing is, I always tell you, you know, put your comments under my videos because your feedback determines my playback. I'll say that one more time. Your feedback determines my playback. Now, the reason why I'm doing this video, for instance, I didn't plan to do this video. My staff and I, we do research, and so we always have things ahead of time to teach. But the thing is, like, it's based on the feedback that I'm getting, that I'm doing this playback. So when people are telling me, okay, Pastor Reno, you've told us 10 books, you've recommended 10 books for us to read, but these books, they're self-development books. Yes, there's one or two financial books there, but to a large extent, they're books that will help us grow spiritually, that will help us mature in life. Now, we want finance book that will help us become financially successful so that we can increase our own power to do good, because there's very little good that you can do if you don't have money. So I took that into account, and then we did some research, and I've created these 5 books. So what are these 5 books that teach you the secrets of being a millionaire? Now, without further ado, we're going to go into those books. Now, the very first book is titled The Total Money Makeover by David Ramsey. That's The Total Money Makeover by David Ramsey. Now, some of you might know David Ramsey because he's got a radio show, and it's a very, very successful radio show. It's highly syndicated. And the thing about David Ramsey is that he gives very, very practical advice. He doesn't, like give like a pie in the sky schemes, and then just like motivate you. No, he gives very, very detailed, that's the first word, and practical advice. He's a pragmatist, so he believes in the nitty gritty. So if you read that book, The Total Money Makeover, it's very, very, very unlikely that you would not succeed in life, especially as you're coming into the year 2022, except you do not put the advice that he gives you, the counsel that he gives you, into practice. So with David Ramsey, his book will help correct the very wrong notions that a lot of people have about money. So if you read that book, The Total Money Makeover by David Ramsey, I'm telling you, it was written in 2003, and yet it's still relevant till today. It keeps selling. I think even this year it's probably sold close to 1 million copies. It's that powerful. Now, the next book that I'm going to be curating for you guys is, obviously, a lot of you have read this book. It's Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Now, the challenge is that a lot of people read that book. Very few people study that book. I studied that book. I actually studied that book because, one thing about Robert Kiyosaki is that he is not even a writer, so he's not very skilled at writing. But the thing is, like, because he's writing about things that happened to him, and he says it in the book, he's not a very good writer, but because he's writing about things that happened to him and how he overcame poverty and how his own experience with his dad and then his friend's dad, you can see that the book becomes engaging. And then he tells you, he says, like, going to school will teach you how to make a living, but it's what you learn outside of school that will help you make a life. And he had to learn it the hard way. He was in the military, he came out, and then, He tried his hands at a number of things, and then he began to put the advice, the counsel that he got from his friends that into practice. So when you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, it's going to teach you how to live. Just when I say live, I'm talking about LEAVE. So how to live a life of consumerism, whereby you're constantly, consuming things and displaying it on social media, to living a life whereby you are acquiring assets. So it teaches you how to acquire assets. Now, the third book that we're going to be creating right now is Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich. It's by a guy called Napoleon Hill. Now, the beauty about this book is very, very old. The book is really, really old. It's a very, very old book. It's several decades old, but it's so relevant because what this guy did is that he interviewed many, many successful people. He interviewed some of the first billionaires ever on planet Earth, and he interviewed, the most successful people in the world at that time. He interviewed people like, Andrew Carnegie, the steel magnate. He interviewed, Rockefeller. He interviewed a whole bunch of people, and then he wanted to find out how they became successful, and then he wanted to see if there was a common thread, and he did find that common thread. Like it takes intellect, and then also he talks about the mind, how the power of the mind. And so it's very important when you read that book, like you look at the steps that all these millionaires, back then, like the steps that they used to become wealthy, and then how they were able to, utilize the power of the mind, how they're able to utilize the power of the mind. It's very, very important because here's the thing, and even scripture verifies this. It says, as the mind goes, so goes the mind. So Think and Grow Rich is a very, very important book. It's a very, very important book for you to read because it gives you mind techniques that will help you grow wealthy. It gives you mind techniques that will help you grow wealthy. And then it's not just that you read these books. You see, even when you're reading these books, try also to read other books. I'm always surrounded by books myself. I'm always surrounded by books. If I'm going on a flight, I don't just put my my AirPods or an earphone and listen to music and watch movies. No, flights are a very good opportunity for you to read books because you are not going anywhere. You are in this enclosed space. You can't escape it. Just get a book. Get a book. Right now, I'm rereading this book. And this book is The School Tape Letters. Now, it's not a financial book, but the thing is that, as I'm reading this book, there are other books, I'm reading a book here by Harv. A lot of you might not have heard of Harv, but it's one of the books that I will create for you. The title of the book is The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And so if you read a book like that, that's it's the next book I'm going to be curating. If you read a book like that, for instance, have Eker, he's a Canadian, but this guy is awesome. In his book, he tells you the attitudes. So you see, in Napoleon Hill's book, he talks about the mind. In Robert Kiyosaki's book, he talks about experiences that he had, whereby he learned the hard way. Now, if you read Harv Eker's book, what he's talking about, because like Total Money Makeover by David Ramsey, he gives you, practical advice. But when you read Harv Eker's book, he's telling you about an attitude, that is an attitude that attracts wealth to you. There's an attitude that attracts wealth to you. Now you think about that. He says there is an attitude that attracts wealth to you. You look at that mentality. So how do you gain that attitude? Because he says if you don't have that attitude, you're not going to become wealthy. If you don't have that attitude, because that attitude helps you to. I'll just give you a very good example. You guys know I like traveling a lot, and some of the things I like traveling. When I was in Turkey, I went on a parachute, and then it went actually 2,000 feet up in the air. And then also, in the Caribbean, I just came back from St. Kitts. I went parasailing. Also in California where I live, I do parasailing a lot. Sometimes I do parachuting. Now there's this thing, when you're that high up in the air, not in a plane, you're in like a place where you can have a 360-degree look on the world around you and below you and above you. You see things differently. Colors appear differently. So blues appear different, greens appear different, yellows appear differently. So what Harv Eker is saying in his book is that when you have that millionaire attitude, you begin to see things differently, because it takes you, catapults you to a higher altitude whereby you can see things differently. You have a bird's eye view of things. And that's why that book, The Secret, of the Millionaire Mind, it's a very, very important book. I encourage you to read that book. If you read that book, I'm telling you, you're going to be very successful. Ultimately, you'll become a millionaire. Now, the fifth book is my book. Start solving problems. Start solving problems. I can't stress that book, enough. A lot of people have read that book. I have a guy in Milwaukee, in Milwaukee. He's read that book, and he's become so successful. Honestly speaking, even though I don't ask him, this guy pays for most of my travels. He just said, "Oh, no, 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 Pastor Reno, I've got to give back." And it's not just like silly travels. I mean, major travels. Like, he can spend $5,000 on just one trip of mine. Because he's read that book, he's put it into practice. He's read some of my other books as well, but that book particularly made an impression on him and helped him to become successful, whereby right now he's a multi-millionaire. Now, my time is fast spent, so if you have questions arising from this video, put them in the comment section. Like I said, your feedback drives my playback, so put them in the comment section. Now, remember, I do not have a WhatsApp forum. I don't have a Telegram channel. I don't have a Gmail account. Scammers see that my videos tend to go viral, and so they download my photos, and then they create a YouTube profile, and then they go to my videos and start poaching people, telling them helpline, one-on-one mentoring. I will guide you. They're scammers. I don't have that. I don't do that. I respond to your comments by doing a video, or you'll see my verified YouTube profile responding to you if it's on YouTube, or on my social media profiles. They all that have that blue check mark, that blue tick to show that they're verified. Now, my name is Reno Omokri. Thank you for watching, and God bless you.